Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. No Patrick Van Straten today. Instead, we've got Michael in the middle.
Yeah.
Star of Bryan Cranston's best ever work on Sky One. That was the theme tune. I couldn't remember it. Well done, Chris Hamill. Let's kick straight off with the questions then. The first one comes from George Cockford. Interesting name. Who should Madrid sign to replace Karim Benzema at the end of the season? George has clearly written him off, Hamster. Is he right to do so?
Well, he's struggling, isn't he, this season, as is Cristiano Ronaldo. Well documented that Ronaldo's got a conversion rate of about 1.8% at the moment. One goal from 55 shots, in fact, and Benzema's not faring much better. I think he's got a solitary goal as well, but has far less efforts. That's why it's not been as well publicised. Now, those two dovetailed quite nicely last season, didn't they? I think Ronaldo scored 25 La Liga goals in 29 games. And a part of his evolution of becoming this pure striker has been Karim Benzema picking up the sort of slack, the hard yards, which he does very well. He's quite a selfless player in that regard. I think it's too late for them to go in for someone like Lewandowski now or Aubameyang, despite them both having brilliant starts to the season. They're both of a similar age, aren't they, to Karim Benzema? I believe Benzema's around 30.
Yeah, Lewandowski's about the same age.
Alba's 28. So you'd think that ship has maybe sailed. Those ships, plural. But what about someone like Timo Werner?
Left
field shout. He's got 30 goals this calendar season. I think if you include goals and assists for club and country, he's contributing to a goal every 88 minutes.
Yes, he is.
I believe. So he's had a brilliant year, brilliant debut season in the Bundesliga, and might not cost as much as someone like Harry Kane, who is the obvious candidate when you kind of think of world-class number nines. Have you got anything else to say, McCubbin?
Yeah, I mean,
Timo Werner for me is it.
Yeah, for me, I'd say I'm going to go more in the mainstream here and say Harry Kane or Paulo Dybala are obviously two very different kind of players.
Very different,
Harry Kane, for the reason like you were saying, he seems to be the most conventional fit to replace a player like Benzema. Obviously has a fantastic scoring record, fantastic at holding up the ball, also pretty good at creating chances for teammates as well.
Might be on their radar now after the Champions League games as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you see what he can do in a Spurs side, which is a very, very good team, but if you were to put him in a team like Real, where it's world-class players in pretty much every position, he'd have an absolute field day. But I think Dybala would maybe solve two problems in that he would allow Real Madrid to not have to rely on either Ronaldo or Benzema, just because he can. Out of kind of all the forwards kind of out there at the moment, he's the one who can kind of do everything. If you look at like last season, he was creating everything for Higuain last season, still scoring a decent amount. This season, he's just taken up the scoring mantle basically from Higuain. So I think he's the most obvious candidate for me.
But do you think players like Isco and Asensio maybe have similar skill sets to him and can Asensio in particular, in my opinion, could probably contribute as many goals as him in a season as well.
I don't know.
15 to 20.
I think that Paulo Dybala is better as an out-and-out striker, but such is his selflessness, he's happy to drop into that hole. I think his goal-scoring rate this season has kind of proven that. He's absolutely flying. He's got 12 goals in Serie A. He, in my opinion, will work fantastically as an out-and-out striker, and he'd work even better if he was up there with someone else.
A lot of Juve fans see him as the future number 9 of their club when Higuain leaves, and Higuain, despite, I think he's got 8 and 12 this season, he's slowing down rapidly.
I mean, should we talk about the elephant in the room a little bit as well?
Don't talk about temperament like that.
In the form of Alvaro Morata. Yeah. Goodness gracious. I mean, Los Blancos fans, I'm sure, are absolutely pulling their hair out. Zinedine Zidane as well. The sale of Alvaro Morata in the summer for, 55 million? Seems like an absolute mess now, doesn't it? I mean, what is he, 24 years old? He's banging them in for fun in the Premier League. He's also brilliant at holding the ball up, great at running the channels, a real out-and-out striker.
But this, I mean, all the clues were there. He was the top scoring Spaniard, I believe, when he left. I think he got 20 league goals playing a bit part role. So it's not as if they sold him and they were like, oh, he could be a success.
Yeah. But why on earth would he sell? Who at that club made the decision to sell Alvaro Morata? Because I have no doubt that he would be starting pretty much every game this season for Real Madrid.
Well, as I just touched upon earlier, I think we all see Ronaldo's future as purely a centre forward rather than this dynamic winger or sort of creative forward. So he was potentially blocking Alvaro Morata's progression, and then he signed a new contract.
Yeah.
And I imagine that Perez didn't really want to upset the apple cart, especially when Ronaldo was so good at the end of last season.
But it's such a risk. For me, it is a risk. You know that Ronaldo's approaching the end of his career. You know Benzema's probably approaching the end of his Real Madrid career. I'm sure he'll move on and score some goals somewhere else. But it's just a risk. You just don't sell a young academy player.
And they could have sold Benzema, surely.
Exactly. Surely take less of a risk and let Benzema move on. But I don't know. Who would you guys at home sign to replace Karim Benzema? Or should they just put their faith in him? That word didn't come out very well, did it? Let us know in the comments below. There we go. Finally spat that one out. Our next question comes from David Gregg on Twitter. On Twitter. And he has basically called us out a little bit. He said, in August, you guys claimed that Gylfi Sigurdsson was the worst signing of the summer. Do you still believe that, or has someone else been even worse? No, David, I'm sticking firmly by my guns. £45 million for Gylfi Sigurdsson is horrendous business. Absolutely horrendous. And I've been proved right this season. He's not been good. Mind you, neither have Everton. I think he's had 15 appearances in all competitions and he's got 3 assists, maybe 1 goal. It's just not really good enough, is it, for a player that they've signed for that amount of money? What are we expecting of him, though? We're expecting set pieces. Really, his outfield creativity is not great. From open play last season, 70 players in the Premier League created more chances than him. That's not good enough for a player who's costing £45 million. And the fact that Everton then didn't go and sign a big striker up front, and Olivier Giroud, made the move even worse. It's a criminal signing to sign Giroud when you haven't got an out-and-out recognised striker other than Sandro coming in. For me, Gylfi Sigurdsson was an appalling bit of business, and we've been proved 100% right from what we said. Everton had a dodgy summer.
I mean, it is hard to be too smug, though.
It's not.
Because Everton have been a collective failure this season, haven't they? And when you have not 1, not 2, but 3 candidates for worst signing coming from the same club, which in my opinion is Sigurdsson, Klaassen, potentially even Wayne Rooney as well on 150 grand a week, then the alarm bells start to ring, don't they? As in, it might not necessarily be the players, but the management, the system they play, the vision that the hierarchy have for the club, yes, the recruitment. And the problem with those players is they all want to play in the same position. We said this at the time. David Klaassen had an extremely productive season for Ajax, contributed to well over 20 goals in that attacking midfield position. Gylfi Sigurdsson was one of the most productive players in the Premier League in terms of goals and assists together, so goal involvements. And Wayne Rooney was sort of a bit of a special scenario.
Yeah, it was like a big name, wasn't it? Returning home.
Exactly, a bit of a homecoming for him, albeit a very pricey one. There's another few candidates that spring to mind. Arnautovic hasn't exactly set the world on light at West Ham, has he? Oxlade-Chamberlain is arrived at Liverpool to play in central midfield and has yet again found himself mainly consigned to the substitute bench for the tune of 34 million. But on the subject of Liverpool, maybe inactivity could also be viewed as the worst thing that happened for a club during the summer, because they could be challenging for the Premier League, in my opinion, had they solidified at the back and gone in and not made a complete balls up of the move for Virgil van Dijk. But I think it's easy to say Sigurdsson has been the worst signing just because of the massive fee he arrived for, but Kerman's got to take a lot of that responsibility.
True.
And he has, because ultimately he's been sacked. So.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I mean, like you were saying before, Joe, I think signing a striker who could work with Sigurdsson's strengths was the key. And yeah, they didn't get Giroud, but they could have put in a better effort to sign Llorente. Llorente went to Spurs knowing that he was going to play second string to Harry Kane when Everton could have come along and been like, here, you can get first team football every week here.
Good point.
You can be provided for by a player who provided for you a ton of times last season. But I think we also have to talk about West Ham. I think along with Everton, they probably conducted the worst business in the summer, especially defensively, where they have been poor for the last, I can't remember how long, basically since Sam Allardyce was their manager. They've been poor defensively, even when they were, even in their better days under Bilic, they were still leaking goals. Deciding to kind of patch up their defensive issues with Pablo Zavaleta, who is not only getting on a bit, but was also part of a City defence who themselves were pretty leaky last year and was gotten rid of as part of their kind of clean-up act. And then Joe Hart, who has been, a goalkeeper who's been shot of confidence for the last 18 months.
Yes.
I mean, there is almost nothing worse than that. I don't think he's actually been that bad, but he has had some very poor games. But yeah, if you look at kind of his performances for Torino last year, I don't know what it will take for Joe Hart to get back to the kind of level that West Ham obviously see him at. I'd have to say West Ham.
And we can say West Ham, by the way. A lot of people during the summer kind of said, West Ham have conducted the best business. A lot of ageing pundits seem to come out with that nonsense. And we, as a collective, said that if you actually look at West Ham's signings, similar to Everton's, they're not particularly fantastic. A lot of them ageing, even Chicharito, we kind of had a few problems with, and we've almost been proved right on that as well. He's been a good signing, but probably not the goal output a lot of West Ham fans would have been hoping for.
Just a lack of creativity, I think, in terms of their recruitment. They're two sides with a decent sort of disposable income at their hands, aren't they?
Yeah.
And when you look at the sort of smaller sides, the Brightons who've gone after the Pascal Grosses, the Huddersfields who have secured like the Aaron Moyes for 10 million, you think if these clubs are getting value for money at that price, then you don't really have an excuse not to be seeing more results on your kind of big investments. I think they took Steve Walsh, was it, from Leicester, Everton? He's not exactly fared very well there. And there's some great young talent that's available in the Bundesliga, which is where Pascal Gross came from, which is why I mention it. That you could probably purloin for half the cost. Yeah. We talked about Julian Brandt in the summer. We talked about
Kevin Campbell before he joined Leipzig.
Kevin Campbell cost him 15 mil before.
That's ridiculous.
He was going to jet off to China, wasn't he? There's some great defensive options there as well, even at Leverkusen, in the likes of Vendel, the left back, the right back,
Benny Henrichs.
I think they just need to look further afield, be a bit more creative with where they look and the pools of players that they're assessing, and maybe they'll improve.
Probably not though, because they're all idiots. But who do you think has been the worst signing of the summer? We didn't even mention Jermaine Defoe, and that's probably Patrick's. So let us know in the box down there. Our final question comes from Satikar Javid, and it's a blockbuster. Imagine you're Barcelona, but you've got unlimited wages and unlimited transfer budget.
Nice.
However, you can only buy one of Verratti, Pogba, or De Bruyne. Who do you go for and why? It's an incredible question and an incredibly tough answer, Hamster.
Yeah, what a predicament to be in. We had a brief chat about this on the way over because it is such a good question. And while they all have outstanding individual qualities and their own little nuances, and they would all make that team infinitely better, there was a bit of a general consensus, wasn't there? That on given form, it'd be hard to argue against the Belgian maestro that is Kevin De Bruyne, who's 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe even longer, I said I think this guy's the best player in the Premier League, and his form has only improved since then. He's still in the ascendancy, which is incredible. That finish against Leicester at the weekend, when he just rolled it onto his left and sent an absolute howitzer into the top bins. What foot is he? Nobody knows. I mean, and that's always a good sign, isn't it? But the other two players aren't bad either. But KDB's numbers, I mean, he's creating 3 chances a game. He's scoring at a rate of once every 3 games, which for a midfielder is absolutely outstanding. He's taking on 2 men a game. He's got those lovely quick feet, has that great turn of pace, and that lovely sort of low hammered cross that he seems to have perfected at the moment. That alone would be worth any amount of money. But saying that, for me, and I've said it before, the most Barcelona-esque player in there, and they have a very specific DNA, don't they?
Yeah.
is probably Verratti. And I know you've been a fan of his for a long time, of course, in Team of the Season every season in Liga since he joined from Pescara. So, not bad by any means.
Pretty prestigious, yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's hard to hold with De Bruyne. Probably, like, let's alone Premier League, probably the best all-round midfielder in the world right now.
Yeah, I'd agree.
On current form, like, you can't really, like, yeah, he can just do everything. So, with that in mind, it's almost impossible even to argue for someone like Verratti. But at the same time, like you're saying, yeah, I think what makes Verratti stand out in comparison to these two players is that while he's nowhere near as flash as those two, you don't notice him as much. He doesn't chip in with goals and assists at the same rate as Pogba or De Bruyne. But yeah, he would absolutely suit Barcelona's style of play, whether that be a long-term replacement for Iniesta or for Busquets as well. I think he can do the jobs of both of those.
He has
players.
that tactical flexibility, doesn't he? For sure.
And I think the argument for him would be that there aren't really. I can't really think of any other players who could fulfil that role as well as Verratti. But in an attacking sense, there are a lot of other creative midfielders in Europe who could fulfill a role that De Bruyne or Pogba would be fulfilling.
Yeah.
Say, be it Christian Eriksen.
Yeah. I think the only person with a comparable skill set is maybe like Thiago Alcantara.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying, I completely agree with. He fills more holes, but maybe doesn't have as big an impact in any one of them.
Yeah.
I love Marco Verratti. What a metronome.
Yeah, I do as well.
Go on then. You've got to argue for Paulo Pogba.
Well, I'll put on record first.
Fan.
I completely agree. I think Kevin De Bruyne right now is the best central midfielder in the world. And if I was Barcelona with unlimited wage and transfer budget, it would all go on Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne would fit any system that Barcelona want to play. Whether they want to play him deep, whether they want to play him attacking, he's the perfect player for any team almost right now. I'll make some points about Pogba because I watch him quite a lot. The one thing I will say about Paul is he's obviously younger than both of these guys. So he's got 2 years on De Bruyne, and that's a big positive. I think in 2 years where Paul Pogba will be, could potentially be about the same sort of level as Kevin De Bruyne, if not a little bit higher. And I'll also say that if Paul Pogba was playing in a Pep Guardiola team, we'd be saying similar sort of things as we're saying about Kevin De Bruyne now. He would be incredible under Pep Guardiola, just like we're saying about Kevin De Bruyne. I think if you swap KDB and Paul right now, we'd be saying pretty much the exact same things, but in the opposite way.
Both playing in
4-3-3s.
Well, both playing the best football in 4-3-3s.
Yeah. I thought when Pep, when City announced Pep, I thought Paul Pogba was going to be the next person through the Etihad.
Yeah, I completely agree. Obviously, a slightly different skill set to KDB in that he's a much better dribbler. I think he's taking on 4 men a game, which is a massive, massive number from central midfield.
Big old legs, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got that sort of Moussa Dembele ability just to hold a player off and turn them and spin them. He's got great close control, really, really good vision as well, Paul Pogba, in a similar way to KDB. I would obviously go for Kevin De Bruyne, but there is definitely an argument to be made for Paul Pogba. A younger player, potentially a higher ceiling, and not playing in the best team right now. But having said that, I would personally go KDB alongside these boys. But who would you go for? Vote in the poll up there. KDB, Verratti or Pogba? That's all the time we've got on this episode of Sunday Vibes. But what's happening, Christopher Hamill, with FDFC this weekend?
We have a training video going up on FD's channel, and it's how to pass the football like Arsenal, which is hilarious. Because we're bad, if you haven't gauged that by now. But on FDFC's main channel, I believe Team Twat are putting out a non-league vlog. That is my boy McCubbin over here and his right-hand man, James Wayne.
Nicest guy on
Will it be
football
ready
daily.
on time? No one knows.
Who knows? The nature of non-league football. Forget Kevin De Bruyne or Verratti. This is real football.
Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you later.
Bye.